Yeah, that's good.
As we're going through the sixth chapter of Nazir, we are working out what it is in practice you have to do if you're a Nazir, and I suppose what you have to avoid doing. So we're working effectively through the time sequence of being a Nazir from making the vow to operating a Nazir. And then we'll see in a couple of chapters' time that we spent a lot of time discussing the end point, bringing the sacrifices and shaving at the end of the period. So we're running through the time period. Now, we're going to investigate each one of the three prohibitions. So, you might think we're going to do that. So there are three things a Nazir stays away from: a dead body, not other kinds of uncleanness, wine, and shaving. The Mishnah in the next chapter will go and talk a lot about uncleanness, but we're now circling around wine and shaving. And we dealt with the quantity of wine in the previous Mishnah, and now we're just going to jump into shaving for a little one Mishnah before we jump back into eating or drinking. Stam Nazirut Shloshim Yom. An ordinary Nazirut is 30 days. So when you sign up, if you don't specify a time interval, you specify 30 days. And that's going to be 30 days, of course, for the shaving. 30 days for shaving or not shaving. Gilach or shegilchuhu listim. So if he shaved himself or bandits shaved him. I think this refers in general, by the way, to anyone who shaves, because of circumstances out of his control. But the scenario that the Mishnah brings is he was grabbed by some bandits and they didn't like his long hair and they shaved him. Right? Maybe. Well,
see this unfortunately terrible and tragic time because history is about really humiliating, like the Jews that would shave off the beard and
yeah, that's right. So we've seen we see in Germany or in Vienna, they'd grab a Jew with peyot or with long hair and they or with a beard, right? And they'd cut his beard or they'd cut his peyot. So yeah, so interesting. Yeah, it does have resonances there. It does have resonances. And we don't know who these bandits are, these listim. Maybe they're Roman bandits. But the point is, if he shaves or if he gets shaved, soter shloshim yom, he loses 30 days. This is different, by the way, from drinking. If he drinks, well, we'll see in a minute what the penalty is for drinking. But if he drinks and he pays the penalty, that's it. He can carry on being a Nazir. But if he gets shaved, at the minimum, he needs to add on another 30 days because he needs to grow his hair and he's going to cut his hair at the end and burn it on the altar. And it applies with however he gets shaved. So Nazir Shekilach Bain, Bazog, a Nazir who shaved himself, whether with a zog. Now we had this word zog in the previous Mishnah. I don't know whether the Mishnah is playing with words here. Remember that the zag was the great peel, and the zog was the outside of the cowbell. But this zog is from the root zavag, zayin vav gimel, which means pair. It means scissors, because a scissors is a pair of knives. So whether he shaved himself bazog with a pair of scissors, bain batar with a razor, or she sifsef al kol shahu, maybe he plucked something out. Some people say sifsef is to singe, by the way, but Kahati translated as to pluck. Maybe he plucked out a hair. Whatever happens, he's chayav. And chayav, by the way, in this context means he's liable for lashes. He's liable for lashes. Nazir, chofef, ufaspes. A Nazir is actually allowed to kind of clean and part his hair. He's not supposed to comb it with a comb, because when you comb it with a comb, and I guess particularly the kind of combs they had in the time of the Mishnah, hairs would come out. So he can wash his hair, but he can't comb it. Rabbi Ishmael Lo Yachuf Ba'adamah. Rabbi Ishmael says he's not allowed to cleanse it with dirt. Really interesting commentary, real live commentary about what kind of how they did hygiene at the time of the Mishnah. Apparently, they used to clean it with earth. So Rabbi Ishmael says he can't clean it with earth. Lo yachuf badama mipnei shehi masheret et ha-se'ar, because the dirt's going to make the hair fall out. So broadly, we can take care of our hair while we're in Nazir, but we cannot do anything that makes a hair fall out. So that's all the Mishnah has to say about shaving, actually. And now it's going to get back to drinking. Nazir, shaya shoteh v'yain kol hayom, a Nazir who drank wine all day long. Einu chayav ela achat, he's only liable for once. And we're talking about lashes here. So maybe that's a bit of a relief, right? He's only liable for one set of lashes. He can drink wine all day long and only get lashed once. But there's always a but. Amrulo, al tishteh, al tishteh. If they said to him, don't drink, vehu shoteh, and he drinks, he's liable. Chayav al kol achat v'achat. He's liable actually every single time. So he could be liable for multiple lashes if he's sitting there drinking and someone says no, and then he drinks again and no. And this is a three-part Mishnah. We're now going to repeat this halacha for the other two prohibitions. Hayami tamela meitim kol hayom. He was defiling himself all day. He was in contact with a corpse all day long. Difficult for us to kind of get our mind around this, but maybe he worked in a cemetery. Maybe he worked in a graveyard. But this is a three-part Mishnah, and each is like a poem, right? Each paragraph is the same. Hayami tamela meitim kol hayom, just like haya, just like haya shoteh vayain kol hayom. He's in contact with dead all day, just like he was drinking wine all day. Eino chayav ela achat. He's only liable for one set of lashes. Amrulo, alti tameh. They said to him, don't be defiled, just like don't drink. Vehu mitameh, and he goes ahead and does it. Chayav al kol achat v'achat. He's due lashes on each time he comes into contact with a dead body. And then the third time round, you can see the poetry here. I mean, someone really sort of, this is a Mishnah they used to teach kids, right? It reads a bit like that. He was shaving all day long. He's only liable for one penalty, one set of lashes. Amrulo, al tagalach. They said to him, don't shave. Al tagalach, don't shave. Vehu megalech, and he carries on shaving. Chayav al kol achat ve'achat. He's actually liable for each shaving. They say him, don't shave, and he shaves. He's liable for each time. And the Rambam, Maimonides, produces a fascinating comment on this Mishnah. And he explains that when we say he's only liable to a single penalty, when he's drinking all day long, or touching a dead body all day long, or shaving all day long, when we say he's only liable to a single penalty, that's Ein ze'ela b'dinei adam. That is only according to the laws of man. Because under the laws of lashes, you need warning. And of course, that once we understand that you need warning, you can understand why when they say to him, don't touch a dead body, or don't drink, or don't shave, and then he keeps on doing it, you see why then he's liable another time. Every time they give him a warning and he carries on doing it, he gets a fresh set of lashes. But this is just the laws of humankind. Aval b'dinei shamayim. But according to the laws of heaven, every time he drinks wine, every time he shaves his hair, every impurity that defiles him, every time it's a sin, and it's parallel with all the other prohibitions in the Torah. There's absolutely no difference in this between a negative prohibition and a prohibition with karet or death. And you should know, by the way, this is the words of the Rambam, that someone who commits adultery or giluya arayot is liable on every single occasion. And even if we're only able to punish him with one punishment, the Holy One punishes, the Holy One, blessed be, he punishes him for every single transgression. We've been learning these ideas in the daily daf in Sanhedrin, that you can only, well, obviously you can only get punished once, but the Holy One punishes him for every transgression. And then he concludes, but he says, if the court were to kill him just for one of these transgressions, and he confessed, he has to do vidui. So the assumption is he does vidui, then he's punished for one of these transgressions. And then the Rambam concludes, mit kaperlo al hakol mitzat hatshuva. If he confesses and he loses his life, he then atones for every single one of them. And then he says, look at the end of his commentary, look, we'll explain this in its proper place. So anyway, that's something to, so anyway, the Rambam, so we have what seems to be very mundane Mishnah, but the Rambam makes really a really important point about the fact that, human law is not the same as divine law. And we just need to keep, as we're going about our lives, we just need to keep both in our minds.